So, Andrew, welcome. Please start by just letting us know who you are, what you do, and where you work.
Sure. My name is Andrew Ridner. I'm a global technical solutions architect for WWT, Worldwide Technology. I sit on our global engineering team and manage or deal with end-user computing as a specialist.
And what does Worldwide do?
So Worldwide Technology is, I like to call them the largest company nobody's ever heard of. We're about $13 billion. We handle Fortune 500, telco, and the federal government. We resell hardware, we resell software, we sell services and integration.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
It's a huge company that some people haven't heard of, indeed.
Yeah, it's amazing how few people have. I remember when I first came to the company, I've been there 9 years now, and I remember I interviewed for VMware, I interviewed for Citrix, and they had job offers on the table, and a recruiter calls me up and says, hey, have you talked to Worldwide? And I'm like, who? And they literally said, just bear with us, go talk to them, and sat down with them, was blown away by them, and have been with them ever since.
So what blew you away? Just tell us what's your unique approach.
The culture of WWT. They really care about their employees. For instance, we've been on the Fortune 100 list the last 5 or 6 years for top companies, which is unusual for a systems integrator VAR, and they really seem to take care of their employees in a good way.
So let's talk about taking care of your customers, the other side of it. So end-use computing, it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue every day. Maybe just talk about the changing environment. You say you've been there a few years.
I started in professional services with the company, went over to the sales side, the dark side a few years back. I can say that what I started out with was a VDI guy, so virtual desktops. Started back in the mid-90s doing that, and you know, once you got into the mid-2000s, VDI had all this promise, but really, honestly, it was like a 4-letter word to some customers because it was failures. Technology caught up to it, things now work, so companies are now readdressing it. They're also looking at ways to tie in a lot of their management structure into it, because you used to have different silos around, you know, mobility management, getting patches to your desktops, and then you had your VDI as a small little subsection. Now they're trying to tie all of that together into one management structure. It's what they call the digital workspace, which is a lot of what this conference is about for me.
Where's your relationship and partnership with IGEL fit into all of that?
So we identified IGEL a few years back. Originally it was as one of the thin client vendors that we did VDI with. When they took the turn to us more of a software-based company, we became very intrigued by that because a lot of our customers, one of the barriers to getting to VDI or server-based computing was, frankly, they had just gone out, they just bought a bunch of laptops or they just bought a bunch of PCs, and they said, well, we just made this huge investment. We can't go to this technology now, even though we're very interested in it, and we see that the technology is out there that's able to get it running well. So IGEL, they were able to ability to convert physical machines into into thin clients, UD pockets that allow you to just on the fly change things over. We're just seeing more and more use cases where something like an IGEL comes in that the competitors simply do not have. Plus their thin clients are very solid made and very, what's the word I'm looking for, very dependable. And dependability is everything in the thin client market.
One of the other things that about IGEL, as I understand it, is that they're pretty much software, they're platform agnostic. Yeah,
and you know, we're a very large, for instance, Dell partner and HP partner, and they have thin clients, right? But the management consoles with IGEL, being able to manage thin clients, fat clients, anything like that, put them into their OS, has made them that central glue that pulls it all together for our customers.
Regardless of what, if you're working in Fortune 100 companies, you've got all the legacy stuff. You know,
there's tons of legacy around there. There's tons of applications around there. There's tons of complexity around there, and they're looking for something that simplifies management down to the easiest bit. Because, for like it or not, the thin client is the least thing they want to worry about. They've got much bigger and more important things to worry about. So they want to get some simple thing that pushes updates out, makes them dependable, makes them work, and gets it done quickly and easily. So they don't have to have a dedicated person for that. And IGEL software gives that.
And while they want to reduce the complexity, they also have to make it robust right at the end where the user is.
I've been blown away by some of the looks that you can put on the desktop, how you can manage it, how you can give it an easy look to the end user where it can even look like a Windows 10 desktop as they log in, and then it just launches right into the VDI, and the user almost can't even tell that they've literally gone into a thin client.
Just want to ask you about security. So obviously one of the issues in the evolving and more complex world is how do you keep it secure out at the end?
Yeah, everything's become about security. We have a separate division in our company that does security. And I have these constant conversations with them around endpoint security. They almost don't get it. It's had to be the EUC guys that have come in and educate them. And because we've only focused on getting apps and getting desktops to users, they focused on locking things down. The sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. We need to make it secure, but easy to access. And so we've almost merged our two groups in the last 6 months to get that kind of access together. And IGEL fits in there very well because you can lock down that desktop. You can make sure it has the right firmware version easily, no fuss, no muss, and you can worry about the back-end infrastructure, which is the complex part.
The ongoing issue for you and for IGEL is how can you go in and help transform a company's business? So the value that you're adding is helping your clients keep up with or ahead of the evolving
we're educating them on the technologies that are out there. We're helping them based on their use cases to understand what's the right solutions for them. As an integrator, they talk to all the OEMs, and they don't always get to know all the smaller OEMs, which IGEL is quickly becoming a big OEM, but it was at one time a smaller OEM. And we're able to educate them on what are the right products for them, how they work, how they integrate together, and do complete designs and implementations for our customers.
Are there any client examples that jump to mind where you think, wow, we went in and made a big difference there with IGEL?
Yeah, well, right now we're in talks with a gas company. They have stores around most of the Midwest. They have registers and they have digital signage and they have the entire admin staff in the background, and they've had different disparate user groups to manage all of this. And now we're talking about changing the digital signage, the registers, and even their physical desktops back at headquarters into IGEL units to turn around and get them a simpler management of all of that, so they can start worrying about their back-end stuff a little bit better.
And the price of oil and gas.
They're always looking to cut costs as well. We have a couple of insurance companies that have looked at this extensively. Insurance is always looking to cut a few corners, and being able to use an IGEL to reduce the cost of the per unit of desktops has been exponentially great for them. We've had a couple of companies that acquire people, and they're looking at VDI for that. But then they turn around and they go, okay, now I have this end unit out there that I'm delivering VDI to that I have no control over. I don't want to go about deploying the Horizon or Citrix clients to them and teaching them all of that. If I can just ship out some UD pockets to them, say boot up for this when you're good to go, when you're off to the races, and we're talking thousands of users when they're doing this. And maybe they buy a company that's got 2,000 users, so they don't want to go through a huge cost of buying new PCs for them and shipping them out. They'd rather just say, here's what you have, I'm going to ship this out, or I'm going to get your MAC address, I'm going to re-image your PC over the wire, and you now are an IGEL unit that's set to connect to our VDI.
Well, you mentioned insurance, and I would think complex environments, if it's not all company owned, or maybe even if it is, that's an industry where there's a lot of independent financial consultants, so they've got small offices, they got home offices. There's some people who are, I know lots of financial services people who are well into their 60s or 70s and still practicing, and if you say, well, here, we're going to ship you an update and we want you to upgrade your operating system and do this or this, they're going to go, are you crazy?
We're looking at, for instance, the pockets, and we've had a couple of customers that we've talked with, and one of them is actually starting to deploy it where they do a BYOD scenario, so bring your own device. And they're starting to use the pockets to boot temporarily up when they're not regularly doing other work. So if it's an insurance agent, they're out in the field, they're going to visit somebody's house to pitch them an upgrade in their insurance or change their insurance. Instead of you giving them a laptop that connects up to something, they can get on the home Wi-Fi, they can use the UD pocket to get into their IGEL, goes right into a VDI. They can set up all of the future customers' information right there in the system, and it's not a data at rest scenario, so you're not worried about personal information be there. It's going straight to the data center back at their site, and they're completely secure.
Where's it all going?
The fewest management consoles, the better. The future is the digital workspace, what we're at VMworld learning a lot about, and the competitors are really adopting as well. It's single sign-on, lowest touch point at the end. Things like group policies and all that connecting to AD are going away. It's going to be whatever the device is, doesn't matter, as long as I can get to my applications as easily as possible. IGEL is very well positioned for some of that stuff to be done.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. It was great speaking with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.